Welcome to the Pacey Performance Podcast. Today, I'm speaking with strength and conditioning coach and owner of complementarytraining.net, Mladen Jovanovic. Hi guys, welcome to episode 6 of the Pacey Performance Podcast. We've got Mladen Jovanovic on the phone today. Welcome, Mladen.
Welcome, Rob. Thanks for having me.
Thank you very much. I first came across Mladen via social media, basically because I kind of like the balance between the practical side and the kind of hard science side. So hopefully we'll tap into a little bit of both of them sides today. But if anyone doesn't know who Mladen is, do you want to give us a bit of a who are you and your background?
Yeah, thanks. I want to apologize in front because of my Serbian accent.
Oh, no, you're all right.
Sounds like a Borat accent. So I just want to apologize in advance. I'm currently in Belgrade, back in Belgrade. Been 2 years with Hammarby IF from Stockholm, Sweden, which is a soccer club, currently playing second division. Quite renowned club with a lot of fan base, probably the biggest club in Sweden. In that regard, basically now just working up, using my time. Me and my wife are expecting a baby, and I'm using the time to, catch up some reading and also developing a website. In a free time, I work with one pro boxer over here, heavyweight guy, young, 21. And basically that's it. I don't know, the path to this point is basically, finishing up college and, starting out with one professional club over here for a couple of years, 2007. Going back to a bit to volleyball for a year. I've been in Istanbul, Fenerbahce for a couple of months with the main team, also helping up with two of Serbian players. One is a Hall of Fame player, Vladimir Grbić, probably the most famous player, Serbian player, and probably the famous volleyball player ever. And I was lucky to help him a bit during his last year in Fenerbahce. And then again, after that, I took a chance and went to Mike Ball's strength conditioning in Woburn in Massachusetts, USA, for one summer, 2010. And after that, came back over here in Serbia, get back to FC Rad, which is again same football club. At this time, playing first division. And after that, I got an invitation from Greg Belharter, who was, starting up with the Hammarby, and I took the chance and went over there. So, and I've been there for 2 years, finished it up in November 2013. And since then, we are back here in Belgrade. So that's basically the whole story.
Very good. So the Mike Boyle, was that an official internship, or was that just a visit, or what?
It was an official internship, yeah, for, I think it was 3 months.
Okay.
June, July, and August 2010.
Right. So if anyone doesn't know Mladen, you're quite renowned for your Excel geniusry, if that's a word. How did all that come about? Was that your undergrad? Was that your degree?
No, basically, the funny thing is I always, avoided, using Excel until maybe last 3 years. Right. And then, you get the problems, you try to solve them, and then you get new problems. You again, Google it, how to try to solve it. You want to visualize things a bit differently, then you got stuck. You again Google it, and then basically just like bit by bit you learn. I wish I started on a right white leg, so to speaking, by reading a decent book on Excel.
Yeah.
But I didn't. So I started, again, Googling. As I stumble on a problem, I Google the solution. So
Google's your best friend.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Especially, if you're using Excel. And there's some great channels out there on YouTube.
Yeah.
And again, some great books I really recommend before you, start Googling, certain problems. But eventually, as you stumble on certain problems in your practice, you're going to learn how to use it because you want to solve it. And I think basically by learning how to solve problems, that's how you learn the best, instead of just reading a book and not using it.
Yeah, of course. Practical application.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So just moving on to, I wanted to kind of, in past podcasts, we've kind of gone a bit quite general, but I wanted to kind of focus in on a few aspects that kind of you might specialize in, about conditioning and periodization in team environments. I know from when I was starting out at Doncaster, that was kind of, you go through your undergrad, you read Bomper, and it just doesn't seem to fit into the kind of traditional team sport environment. So how do you kind of periodize your work in football?
I think you're pretty right regarding that, because most of the periodization stuff comes from a traditional Olympic sports that has a pretty long preparation period and quite short competition period. They tend to peak for a couple of events, 2 or 3 events a year. And, we try to put the square peg in a round hole.
Yeah, exactly.
Using that approaches with team sports. But again, it's completely different context. Peaking is out of questions in most team sports. Maybe for a finals or playoffs, or maybe some important tournament, but most of the time you wanna maintain stable level of performance, especially because the season is quite long, from 4 months up to 8 months a year. 4 months times 2.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
In soccer, and in Sweden it was one big period with a short break in a summer. In a recent, I'm just reading a book by Jan Winkel and a lot of co-authors on fitness in soccer.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about it.
And they actually explain it as this process as a performance stabilization, which is, I think it's comparing with the traditional periodization. By traditional, I mean with traditional Olympic sports. You don't want to peak, because when you peak, you're gonna. To peak, you need to taper, and you're gonna hit the peak, and after peak, there comes a valley. So, that's quite interesting with traditional Olympic sports, because after you're probably gonna have off season. But in team sports, you have a long in season, and you want to be not highest, but maybe 80-90% of your maximum performance, but kind of maintain it. Nice stable performance. So I quite like the term.
Yeah.
Performance stabilization. So it's interesting. When it comes to periodizing stuff, now it's quite popular, the block periodization, where you put bigger emphasis on certain aspect of performance, be it aerobic or strength or power. In team sports, I'm not so sure you can do it. So the thing is, you wanna hit most of the physical performance components most of the time. The tricky part is try to minimize the interference between them by structuring the microcycle in a decent way. I think that's a quite important aspect. And also, I'm not so sure, but most of the books out there on periodization, they are mostly focusing on physical aspects. And I think that's, I might say it's wrong with team sports, because, we force team sport coaches to think as strength conditioning coaches. And I think that more important is a way to periodize tactics. So now it's quite popular, the term tactical periodization, but I think it's nothing new. It's about putting a skill acquisition on top of everything. So I'm not so sure coaches talk much about it. I think it's more important than, talking about periodizing strength training to, anatomic, maximum strength and power. We kind of put trying to find the right English, put the cart before a horse.
Yeah.
That makes sense. So
yeah.
I think putting a tactics and starting with the skill acquisition before physical aspect, especially in team sports, I think that's more important.
Mm-hmm.
For example, dealing with, some coaches in team sports, they hit certain drill once and they never do it again. So, if you're working, for example, in an offensive transition, the tricky part is, should you work on it on, for one session and then next session is something completely different, or you wanna stick to that tactical aspect for some weeks for a block. So I think that tactical periodization is more important in team sports, especially team sports that are more skill related, or something, comparing soccer to rugby or American football. So I guess the tactical periodization is next big thing, if I can say it like that.
So when it comes to fitting that conditioning aspect into all this tactical periodization and obviously working your strength and power, how do you kind of get that conditioning aspect in there? Put it this way, how much, a normal week, how would that kind of, if you got a game on a Saturday, how would that set up to get some conditioning in there, should you need it, obviously?
There's a lot of, not a lot, a couple of strategies you can use in terms of microcycle organization. I guess it's more about logistics than biology. In terms of how many coaches you have and everything. I also like to split the team into something I like to call functional groups. So the starters are the guys who are traveling. Those are starting 11. Then we have 7 guys as a reserves also traveling with the squad. That's a group 2. So they might play a bit or they don't. It's 6 players plus 1 goalkeeper, right? And there's the guys who stay, at home. So I think we need to juggle those 3. Especially because they tend to switch. So sometimes the starting 11, a couple of them go to a second group, or when they're injured, they go to the third group, the guys who are staying at home. So I guess we need to juggle all 3 and have basically 3 different programs.
So, go on, sorry, Matt, go on.
Yeah, when it comes to a weekly structure, for example, you play a game, you're away. Let's say that's a Saturday or Sunday. Let's say Saturday. Some of the coaches like to give a Sunday off. Sunday off. Then on Monday, the first session should be a little bit easier. Probably, some active recovery, and then, it's a basic loading and then tapering for our next game. And we struggle with that first day after a game. Should we give them a completely day off, or should we gather them up on the training ground and do some active recovery and meeting and give some time for PTs to check for injuries? And I guess there's pros and cons of both approaches, and I'm actually thinking about putting something on paper, just put my thoughts on paper regarding that aspect. And here's a tricky part. Basically, the weekly structure is comprised of 3 parts. The first one is basically recovery after a game, so that's a recovery at least 2 days. Then you have a loading part of the week, and again tapering for our next game. So those are like mini blocks, basically 1 or 2 days in duration each. So after a game, if we if you gather up the guys for, maybe morning session, some, active recovery, foot tennis or whatever, and then the next day, in this case, Monday is off. But then then the Tuesday is usually the hardest day, and we struggle with it because, coming off from a day off and hitting the hardest day of the week doesn't seem like the best strategy. Mm-hmm. So I guess immediately giving a guys day off, and then, coming onto the training ground, doing some active recovery, basically easing into a loading phase of the week, if that makes sense, instead of just hitting them hard after a day off. Mm. I think when I visited Bayern Munich, when Luis van Gaal was there, I think they had a bit different strategy. They had a game, then they have an easy day, and then they have a hardest day. I don't know if that makes sense.
So the hardest day would be on, if you had a game Saturday, the hardest day would be Monday?
Something like that.
Okay.
If someone knows the right information, please correct me. But I guess it's a bit, they put the hardest training close, back to back, not a day, but a bit closer.
Yeah.
Then I think it's a day off, and they have 3 days to prepare for a game. Mm-hmm. So basically, coaches like to have at least 3 days to prepare for a game. And again, I think the players just, get used to it, get used to a certain type of a structure. And I guess it comes to a logistic and, how many PTs do you have and this sounds funny, but that's how the things work in a clubs. For example, does everyone has a day off when the players have day off? Mm. If they don't, for example, in Sweden, the workers, they have they have good laws. You need to have at least 1 day off. Mm. They also have a players union. They also demand at least 1 day off.
What, this is staff or the players?
Both, I think.
Okay.
So the players, they have their own union, but the staff also can demand 1 day off. Right. And now it's a tricky part. Should you give the day off for everyone? Mm. And, juggling with all that stuff, I think it's logistics also. And on the flip side, there's the biology, right? And we wanna manage the fatigue cycles during the week. Also give them, try to give them harder session when they are fresh, but also not influencing the next game performance in a negative way. So I guess, juggling with 3 phases in a week, juggling with 3 different groups of the players, again, starters, reserves, and the guys who are not traveling, and also juggling with logistics and the best biological design of the microcycle. Mm. So all those 3 or 4, I don't know how many I numbered, they're all different in every club, every cult. So I don't think there's an optimal solution.
No. Just going back to the working week for your staff, I think you should, that day off, one day off per week, you should tell the physios that I've worked with, because they were doing 3 weeks without a day off. They should bring that union over here.
Yeah.
Just when it comes to, I know you've gone on about your periodization, but how would you, or do you individualize it, player to player, position to position, or is it, you kind of get it in when you can?
Well, basically, I like to quote Carlo Bruzzichelli, who is a Tudor Bompa Institute president of Italy. He said that intensity is basically related to the athlete characteristics, and the volume is related to the position. Right. If that makes sense, I think it's a great quote, because in one of the clubs we had a goalkeeper who had higher maximum aerobic speed than central defender. Right. So that can happen. So I guess when it comes to HIT, high intensity training, conditioning, I like to use players' mass,
Okay.
if that makes sense. And basically, if you play a small-sided game or medium-sided game, in this case 6-6 to 8-8, the players will start to get to their own the tactical positions. So they got that kind of position-specific training from doing a soccer training, if that makes sense. So I always try to cover the bases with general stuff. So if you do running, most of them run the same, but in terms of volume and prescription, but the velocity is based on their own
of course.
Performance, if that makes sense. And I think that's also one of the struggles of the coaches. Should they base the training on positional demands or individual characteristics?
So is it the 30-15 that you use, or I know you're into developing your own MAS system? Is that something you use, or do you stick to the 30-15 Martin Boucher?
We use 30-15, especially for shorter intervals, something like up to 30 seconds.
Okay.
We also did 1600 meter time trial.
Okay.
For something that's longer, a bit 1 minute, 2 minutes, up to 3 minutes. Those types of intervals. We haven't done them a lot, but I think I like the quote from Martin Boucher. Testing should be training specific, not sport specific. If you plan doing shorter intervals, your test should be again representing that type of work.
Yeah.
So shorter intervals, shorter rest. And if you plan doing longer stuff, especially individualizing longer stuff like 1 minute intervals, then I guess you should do test that's a bit longer, like 1600 time trial or a bib test.
So did you? I mean, I saw on your website you looked into developing your kind of own system. Is that still in its production?
It's still in a beta phase. I mean, haven't used it much.
Okay.
I might try a bit. The problem with 30-15 is that the smallest port file change, in this case, the smallest port file improvement in a test is 0.5, and that's basically the difference between the levels. And if you're testing a lot of players, sometimes you miss someone, or someone's cheating a bit.
Yeah.
So if you miss them or you let them go, if that makes sense. If you're not strict, especially if a lot of stuff is involved in the test, precise instructions should be set in advance. Especially when do we stop the level? So if they start a new level but they a bit die out, should they proceed on the next one or not, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And in 30-15, smallest port file improvement is 1 level. So if you screw something up, they immediately get port file improvement, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So and it takes a lot of time. It takes maybe 20 minutes for the most conditioned guys, because it starts around 8. I think we started it around 10 or 12. We just fast forwarded, and it takes some time for them to reach their maximum. So I wanted to make something that's a bit shorter, if that makes sense, and also avoid that problem with stages. So I wanted to repeat one stage at least for 2 or 3 times,
right?
If that makes sense. Because if you make an error, if you make something, then the vortal improvement is still not. You're not giving them more points or taking away meaningful meaningful change.
No, I understand. Right. So just moving on a little bit with regards to repeated sprint ability. It's something that's come up in what I'm doing at university. I just wanted to get your opinion on kind of training for that kind of that repeated sprint ability.
Yeah, I think in this interview I'm going to give you more questions than concrete answers.
No, that's how it goes, isn't it? That's how it goes, mate. Don't worry.
I mean, I don't have everything sorted out.
No, of course, yeah.
Trying to sort things out. And and repeat sprint is something that I've been struggling with the last couple of years.
Yeah.
If you look at the game, the newest analysis of a game, they show that repeat sprint sequence, and that's I think they define it as a sprint with a maximum of 20 or 30 seconds rest. So basically, you get one or two sequences like that in a game, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So repeat sprints are not that often in a game, if that makes sense. But on the flip side, is the frequency of something that's showing you importance of that quality in a game. Because, I guess, for example, if you get one shot and you score a goal, and you can say, they have only one shot.
Yeah.
But that shot is it's meaningful. So I'm not so sure we should use frequency as something relating to importance of some quality, because those repeat sequences could be of really high importance in a game. So I'm interested in something that's called worst case analysis, instead of just using averages and frequencies to impose a meaning to a certain pattern, if that makes sense. So even if repeat sprints are not that important in a game, in terms of frequency, they might be quite important in certain situations. So I guess we need to prepare our players for our worst case scenarios, not average scenarios, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I understand.
And when it comes to training repeat sprints, that's also tricky part. I kind of take a position of Martin Boucher, where you want to train for one quality sprint, so you want to do a quality sprint training, and you want to increase your intermittent endurance. So if you increase your maximum aerobic speed and maximum sprinting speed, your repeat sprint will increase. And once you have those two in place, if that makes sense, then you can do more specific training, aiming repeat sprints with short rest, if that makes sense. So again, it's about periodizing things a bit and putting basic stuff before we hit the specifics.
So you'd focus on two separate qualities to kind of to hit that repeated sprint ability quality.
Kind of funneling, if that makes sense. The funnel, it's a term from can't remember where I got the term from endurance sports. Kind of hitting the important things, like maximum speed, how fast is your best sprint, and your aerobic qualities. So if you fix those two, the repeat sprint will improve. Exactly. I mean, I don't have my own data to back this up, but I think Martin Boucher wrote a lot of papers about it. I mean, the thing is just don't overuse repeat sprint training. You should save it for a couple of times or certain blocks. So just it's retarded to use it if the players are basically slow, if that makes sense. So and also, how do we quantify repeat sprint quality? We used to we have a couple of metrics to quantify repeat sprints. One of them is total sprint time. Basically, if you have 6 sprints, you sum all the individual sprints and you get the total time. And the another one of the other options is to calculate the percent of decrement, or am I saying it right?
Yeah, that's right, mate. Yeah.
So you want to, for example, the simplest way is to compare the fastest and the slowest sprint, and then see how do they differ in terms of percentage. And for example, if you have a slow player who keeps all the sprints pretty much the same, then the decrement percentage will be 0. And you can say, oh, he has a great repeat sprints,
but he's slow.
So I think we should use total sprint time. So for example, if you have a sprinter who first sprint is awesome, and then a bit slower and slower and slower, his total time could be a lot better than the slow guy's time, but his decrement percentage could be 20-30%, and then you can say, oh, this guy is very bad at repeat sprints. So again, it comes back how we quantify things.
Yeah, I mean, just going back to what we discussed before, just while I forgot before because I was going to mention it. I went to a championship club this last couple of weeks, and going back onto the periodization, they played it, and I think this is something that more people are using. Played on a Saturday, day off on Sunday, day off on Monday, kind of medium intensity day.
2 days off?
Yeah, 2 days off. Medium intensity day on a Tuesday, and the high intensity day on a Wednesday, and then kind of tapering again for the match on the Saturday. Is that something that you've kind of come across before, or you thought about putting in the mix?
No, we never give them 2 days off, unless it's like we have a very dense period beforehand.
Right. Okay.
If that makes sense. So you can give them 2, even 3 days off, just to chill out a bit more mentally than physically.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And I think there's also strategy. For example, in rugby, they give a day off 2 days before a game. I don't have first-hand experience, but I saw some of the plans, in-season plans. They have a game and basically day off and the recovery, and then I think 2 trainings, then day off, then training, then game. I don't know if I did 7 or 8 days now, but I think in soccer, usually the managers or the head coaches, they like to have the team for a couple of days. For example, 3 days before a game. But also on the flip side, some of them say, coming to a training ground 3 or 4 days in a row before a game might be a mental burden for some. So again, they want to break it a bit, because they get, kind of in a, I can't say the right word, having a lot of days coming every day before a game might be a mental burden for some players. And we need to keep in mind that that's going to happen for 4 or more months. So they like to have 2 or 3 days before a game to prepare a strategy for a game, but not much more.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense, mate. Yeah. Well, I've kept you for nearly 35 minutes, so I'm not gonna keep going, and I know you're a busy guy, but just give us a bit of an overview of your website, complementarytraining.net. I know you offer obviously free things on social media and kind of help with the Excel geniusry, but can you tell us a bit more about your website?
So basically, the idea is creating a community of high performance coaches willing to share. I don't know how's that going to work, but that's basically the mission. It works around 2 types of membership. One is a yearly and one is monthly membership. And basically now, as we have them, there are 2 excellent products. One for planning a year, annual planner, and also visualizing all the metrics. And the another product is Strength Card Builder, which is Excel template used for strength conditioning coaches to make basically printouts for players when it comes to strength training. So those are 2 I sell with the website, but the whole idea is being a member, and by being a member you get those for free, and all the updates you get for free. And I look forward to a feedback from the users, so I can basically improve the products. So I basically want to make coaches' life easier. So instead of worrying about making Excel templates, you get something that's working and that's being tested in the field. Basically, all those templates I tried and I used last 2 years with Hammarby, and kind of improve them over time, because here how it started. So I had those couple of templates, and I said, okay, now when I have time, I want to prepare for a next job, if that makes sense. So I want to fix all the templates I plan using. so my life will be easier.
Yeah.
And then I say, okay, let's try to sell those, and it was a great reaction from readers. Couple of national teams use it. Some institutes also use it, and I guess it's. I think they're great products, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But again, I think the membership is what we are up to. Creating a community where people share, and I can use that feedback to improve the products.
No, that's good. That sounds. I mean, I've looked at I think you released one that was it last year's strength card builder? Did you?
Yeah. That's the first version.
Yeah.
Now this one is a lot improved with a couple of different tabs.
Yeah.
And by tabs, I mean one tab for a group session when you have a lot of players in the gym doing the same workout.
Yeah.
For example, doing squat, lunges, pull-ups, bench press, but individualizing their weights based on their 1RMs. If that makes sense. And couple of new tabs where you have 2 sessions a week, 3 sessions, 4 and 6 sessions a week. That's more kind of individualized for one player for 4 weeks. And I put around 200 exercises inside, and also around 100 set and rep schemes.
Right.
So everything is kind of already pre-built, so you can just, point and click and get a decent workout quickly.
It looks nice as well. Everyone loves.
I stole the design from. I need to give him some credit from Joe Ken.
Right.
Of a tier system.
Yeah, everyone loves a nice looking Excel spreadsheet.
Yeah, I mean, you take from someone, as I said, bit by bit, and you create your own system.
Yeah, of course. Right. Well, I won't keep it any longer. But if people want to get you on Twitter, what's your Twitter handle?
It's physical, the downline
_.
Prep, like physical prep.
Yeah, cool. So if anyone wants to get in touch with you, your email address is on the website, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on the website, and it's complimentary training@gmail.com. That's the one I use, especially after the website is up and running.
Perfect. Right, well, I'll wrap it up there. So thank you very much, Mladen, and I'll speak to you soon.
Thanks, Rob, and thanks for having me. Hopefully I'm not, we got a lot of questions on the listeners, and I hope I gave them some food for thought, and I hope so, some answers.
Yeah, we did, mate, and we got past the Serbian accent as well. So,
thanks a lot, Rob.
All right, thanks, mate.